Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to another video, and in this video we're going to be continuing on with our C# programming tutorial series, and in this particular tutorial we are going to be taking a look at how we can throw an argument exception from a method in C#. Now, to start off with, let's talk about what exactly an argument exception is. Well, an argument exception is a type of exception that's thrown when an argument passed to a method doesn't meet specific requirements. So let's say we have a method called getWords, and this method is supposed to take in a string and split that string into words, right? So it splits them by every space in the string and returns everything as an array. Well, in that method, we may not want that string to be empty, so we would want to throw an argument exception if the string that is passed in is an empty string. Right? Another instance of throwing an argument exception might be if you, say, have a bank account, right? And you have a method that performs a withdraw. Well, you don't want someone to be able to withdraw more than what they have in the bank account. So if the user tries to withdraw more money than they have in their account, you might want to throw an argument exception there. But that's just a simple example. That usually is better suited for a different kind of exception, a custom exception, stuff like that. But I'm just trying to give you examples of where you could use it if you wanted to, even if they're not the best case scenario for said exception. Right? So, how exactly then do we throw an argument exception? Well, it's relatively simple, actually. We throw it in the same way that we threw our index out of range exception when we looked at indexers. So let's go ahead and actually create an example of throwing this exception. And we'll use the getWords method example. So in our Visual Studio Code, let's create a method that returns an array of strings. We'll say string array. We'll call it getWords. It needs a string passed in as an argument. So that's our method signature. Now, the first thing we need to do is we need to check to see if the string is empty or not. And we can do that using the isNull_empty static method on the string type. So we need to if string dot is null or empty str open up that if statement's body. Now we need to throw that argument exception and give it a message to indicate to the developer, hey, this is why this exception was thrown. And to do that, we can say throw new argument exception And then inside of its parentheses, we need to pass it an argument, which is going to be the message that gets displayed when this exception is thrown. And we'll say, you must pass get words. Oh, wait a second. I don't have the... Okay. Let's try that again. You must pass get words a string that is not empty. And semicolon at the end of that statement. And so now we have our exception thrown. To finish off this method, what we can do is we can say return str.split and pass it a character. In this case, it's going to be a space character. So make sure that inside of the parentheses for split, you pass it a space character, not a string, a character. And that character is going to be a space. Now, what the split method will do is it will take our str, search for all of the spaces in that string, and split the string by that delimiter. And that is our method. We can now go ahead and test this by saying, we can say string string sentence equals this is some sentence. Okay, and we can create our array here. String words equals sentence. Actually, not even sentence. Get words sentence. Okay. Then, after that, what we can do is, assuming that everything's gone successfully, we can do a for each string s in words console write line s. We can save this, and then we can run it in the terminal. Go ahead and do a .NET run here. And you can see we have this is some sentence printed out where each word is on its own individual line. This is precisely what we needed, or precisely what we intended to happen with a non-empty string. But let's go ahead and make this string an empty string and see what happens. Okay. So now we have an empty string. Let's go ahead and try to run this now. We can say .NET run And there we go. Now we get an unhandled exception. System, and we get the system argument exception. We get our, and then we get our message for that exception. Now, how can we then handle that exception? Well, if we want to handle that more gracefully, which we probably should, is we can make this modification to our code. Now, instead of initializing the words array in the same statement, what we'll do at the end of the variable name for our string array, give it a semicolon, okay? We can cut the initialization. Then we can say try words equals get words catch open and closing parenthesis. Inside of these parentheses, we need to give it the kind of exception we're looking for. Argument exception E. Okay. Open up our catch block, and we can say console write line E dot get message. Or E dot message rather. Okay, so what we're doing is we are trying, okay, that's what the try block does. We're trying to get the words from the string that we passed in. If we can't do it, it goes down to the catch block, and it catches any exceptions that are thrown from any of the statements inside of the try block. And when inside the catch block, that is where we need to handle our exception gracefully. In this case, we're simply outputting the message that comes along with the exception. So if we save this and we go into the terminal, we can say .NET run. Okay. Okay, so what we can do to fix that error is, instead of not initializing it, we can just say equals an empty array, like that. So new string empty array, like that. Pretty simple. Now, if we save this and try to run it in the terminal, .NET run, okay, we need to initialize the size of the array then as well. That's not a huge problem. We'll say it only has one element to start with. Now we can try .NET run. And there we go. Now we get our message printed to the console. Let's go back to our string and give it a value. This is some sentence. Clear, and then we can do a .NET run. And you can see we get this is some sentence. So that pretty much does it for this video on how we can throw an argument exception in C# when arguments passed to a method do not meet specific validation requirements. Thank you all so very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.